Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks, Andre, for this presentation, very nice presentation. And thank you and Steve, of course, for inviting me to participate to this ARWA session and presenting the work in Amyan. As some of you may know, there has been only one excavation campaign in Amyan in 2019. We have not been authorized to go back there, so I will go back to this later. So I will first present some, let's say, research questions that had lead us to choose Amyan as an archaeological site to explore and investigate. And then I will present you the site and the cluster of sites around Amyan, because Amyan is part of a cluster of a dozen sites. And then I will present you the results of the excavations in 2019. Oh, yeah. So the main objective or objectives of the archaeological expedition in Amyan is a better understanding of the northeastern region of Mesopotamia, which is located now in Iraqi Kurdistan during the Bronze Age, and the link with the previous and following periods, which is the Chalcolithic and the Iron Age. We have built up three main axes to first set up a complete chronological sequence and a ceramic typological reference system, study more specifically the early Bronze Age levels, and study the environment of the site. So you can see here that Amyan is located more or less halfway between Duhok and Erbil and around 40 kilometers northeast of Mosul. You have here the main mound and the actual modern village on part of the lower town. So as you all know, northern Mesopotamia has been excavated for almost 2 centuries now, with the major Neo-Assyrian capitals of the first millennium. And then southern and central Mesopotamia has been excavated also since the end of the 20th century with this major third millennium sites that we all know. But some regions of Mesopotamia has been less intensively explored, and such is the case of Iraqi Kurdistan, mostly for political reasons. Though since 25, Iraqi Kurdistan has been the focus of new research developments. We have now more than 60 projects, both archaeological excavations and survey programs. Somehow the data provided by this new research is quite imbalanced, because they mainly concentrated in central and southeastern Kurdistan, which is the areas of Erbil and the plain of Erbil, and also the valleys around Suleimania. And they also mainly concern the 4th millennium, which is the, let's say, rise of the complex societies, and the late 2nd and early 1st millennia, which is the birth and climax of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. The 3rd millennium, the early Bronze Age, is well less documented. Therefore, the archaeological expedition in Amyan wanted to fill these two research gaps, which is explore more intensively the northwestern part of what is now Kurdistan, the Kurdistan region of Iraq, and focus on the early Bronze Age period. Since 2010, archaeological research in this area, in the governorate of Duhok, has been dominated mainly by survey program. You have now this map, which is old now, it's not updated, but you can see what I mentioned just before, the concentration of archaeological sites around Erbil and in the valley of the Zagros Piedmont around Suleimania. Amyan is located here, north of, just next to the modern city of Bardarash. And in this area, it is mainly the survey programs that have leaded the archaeological data. We have these three projects that you know: the Eastern Habur Archaeological Survey, directed by Peter Pfersner; the Land of Nineveh Archaeological Project, directed by Daniele Morandi Bonacossi, in the plain of Acre, the Navkur plain, also mainly where Amyan is located; and the Upper Greater Zab Archaeological Reconnaissance Project, directed by Rafael Kolinsky, on both sides of the Great Zab. As I said, the early Bronze Age is relatively poorly documented. Of course, we have the amazing work of the Arkan project on what is called the Tigridian region, and that has been published a few years ago now. The only problem is that it focuses mainly on the old excavation and the excavations of the Mosul Dam sites, and for all the sites that has been excavated recently in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. None of them are published there except Bazmusian and Kasr Mamok, but here again, it's the old excavations that has been published in this series. Yet this period represents a key moment in the development of complex societies. As you know, it's the beginning of massive urbanization, but also the birth of a major political change, which is the transition from small independent kingdoms to a territorial unification under the Akkadian dynasty, followed by the end of the third millennium by the first empire, the Empire of Three, which led the foundation of a system that enabled the control of vast territories, foreshadowing the big Amorite kingdoms of the early second millennium and the Assyrian and Babylonian Empire, of course. So regarding the early Bronze Age, as you know, this period starts with what is called the Nineveh 5 period, which is mainly characterized by its ceramic assemblage, which has been found in Nineveh first. The heart of this culture is supposed to be located in the southern area of Dohuk and Erbil. However, the survey carried out in the area around Dohuk and between Dohuk and Erbil showed that very few Nineveh churches have been found, which is quite puzzling, let's say, because this region is supposed to be more or less the heart of the production. And also, apart from ceramics, we have very little distinctive features of this culture, whether be its architecture or material culture. This is mainly due to the fact that not a lot of sites has been intensively, but archaeological levels on sites have been intensively excavated. There we have mainly sites that has been excavated in Syria, and also to a lesser extent the Mosul area, the Mosul Dam area sites. And another problem for this period is that it encompasses 500 years, which is an enormous lap of time for just one single period, let's say. In Iraqi Kurdistan, as I said, little is known about this period, and apart from pottery, mainly collected during survey, again, relatively few levels specifically linked to this period have been intensively excavated. The survey of the Lonab team in the plain of Acre, you have here a beautiful picture of this plain during springtime taken from the site of Amyan. We can observe a slight decreasing in the occupation, which contrasts sharply with what has been seen before during the late Chalcolithic period, where we have seen some threefold increase in the number of settlements. And at the beginning of the Nineveh period, we have a decrease in the occupation. So it could attest to a possible reorganization of the settlement pattern. And also we have what looks like many small-scale sites, which could lead some sort of increase of the rural phenomenon. Concerning the textual sources, given information on the political system, it remains unknown. We don't know whether we have local kingdoms or this city-state systems that somehow could also work in northern Mesopotamia. Regarding the survey, sorry, I shift to the transition between the Nineveh 5 period and the Akkadian period. Regarding the survey, we can see a more massive occupation of the territory, up to 4 times greater in some areas. And we have the birth of some major urban centers in this area. We have also, of course, the site of Pakerta in the urban plain, which would be around 80 hectares. On the other side, we have Basetki in the Dohuk plain, around 50 hectares. Of course, we have Nineveh, even though we don't know the actual extent of the site during the third millennium, we can guess it would be around 40 hectares. And more closer to Amyan, you have the site of Gomel and Habiki Lashin of 35 and 30 hectares. Yeah, in the plain of Acre, but these two sites, which would be the main urban sites of the area around Amyan, they do not reach the large size of other sites attested elsewhere. And the territory seems to be more occupied by medium-sized and small sites with no major center. So here again, it could be some sort of clue or hints for some rural phenomenon in the settlement pattern. Regarding this period, this transition between the Nineveh 5 period and the Akkadian period, we have some textual sources given some terms and some mentions of cities and territories, but mainly located in the southeastern part of Kurdistan, which is more or less the area of Suleymaniye, Kirkuk, and in a lesser extent of Erbil. For the northeastern parts where Amyan is located, you have here Amyan, who is here. We don't have much mentions. We, of course, know Nineveh. We have Mardaman on the actual site of Basetki, and the site of Talmoush, which precise location is not sure yet. And then you have, of course, the Akkadian period. Of course, how the Akkadians somehow achieved this territorial supremacy is still some sort of an interrogation. But in the northern and northeastern part of Mesopotamia, it's even more blurry. We don't know precisely when this area came under the Akkadian control, even if we think that it would be under the power of the reign of Naram-Sin. We don't know how this was achieved. And of course, we don't have that much archaeological traces and remains. Then we have the fall of the Akkadian dynasty due to the Guti coming from the northern mountains. But we don't know, again, what followed the Akkadian power in the area around Amyan. And then the Guti domination was eliminated shortly before the supremacy of the Ur-3 Empire. We have more textual mentions and more textual data. We know that the relations between the king of Ur-3 and northern Mesopotamia were more there chaotic. We know there was many raids, but it's mainly textual mentions. We don't have a lot of archaeological evidence. And again, no mentions of the area north of Nineveh where Amyan is located. And after the fall of the Ur-3 Empire, we have also mentions of kingdoms, Amorite kingdoms documented in texts. In Cabra, of course, we have also the documentation from Shemshar. But for the Amyan area, it still remains unclear. It is quite possible that Amyan fell under the kingdom of Nurugum, which possible seat was in the site of Gomel. Then it might have been under the domination of the Upper Mesopotamian kingdom of Shamshi-Addu, and then perhaps the Babylonian kingdom of Hammurabi, which cites in his code the city of Nineveh, and then somehow the power of an Aryan kingdom. And of course, we know the kingdom of Mitanni, and the plain of Acre was certainly under the rule of this kingdom. The survey for this period attests a drop in the occupation of the area, which is quite also puzzling. And then the kingdom of Mitanni, of course, began to decline and began the rise of the Assyrian kings, which for 7 centuries, more or less, will progressively extend beyond the territory of the city of Ashur and conquer the ancient territories of the Mitanni. And of course, Mor and Amyan undoubtedly fell under the power of the Assyrian kings. The archaeological data are mainly given by survey programs, of course, based on ceramic material, which divides the third millennium into 2 periods, which of course cannot help to understand whether there was some sort of continuity or break in the occupation. And the ceramic typology is mainly based on references from neighboring regions and not specific to the area. So data from the early third millennium, in particular the transition from the Chalcolithic to the early Bronze Age in the area of Amyan in the Dohuk Governorate, are really difficult to exploit. As I said, you have this significant decrease in the number of sites between the late Chalcolithic and the Nineveh V period, and then a massive reoccupation of the area with numerous urban settlements, mainly small size sites. And then for the more well-known kingdoms and power like Akkad or three Amorite kingdoms and the Mitanni, we don't have much archaeological evidence. So I come now to the site of Amyan, which is located in the plain of Acre. You have here this view going south with the Jebel Maklub. Here on the other side of it, you have what is now federal Iraq and the Mosul and Khorsabad. You have here this modern city of Badash, and the site of Amyan is just close to it. So this plain of Acre, or the Navkur plain, shows an exceptional density of sites. We have more than 400 sites that have been surveyed by the Lownap team, with an almost continuous occupation since the 6th millennium BC until modern time. It's an extremely fertile region crossed by a multitude of streams and rivers, which undoubtedly explains this density of occupation since the Neolithic. So again, you have Amyan here located in the Navkur plain, the plain of Acre, which is roughly triangular here, bordered in the north by the Zagros foothills, in the south by the Jebel Maklub here and the Badash mountains here, in the west by the Shechan hills, and the east by the great Zab, who flows here. So the Lownap carried out the surface survey of the site of Amyan and the peripheral sites. I will come back to this in a few seconds, and have tested a continuous occupation from the Neolithic until the Islamic period. The most represented periods are the early and middle Bronze Age and the Neo-Assyrian period. And you have here this wonderful and complete Akkadian jar found by the Lownap team during the survey, which I must say helped me in choosing Amyan for a potential candidate to study the early Bronze Age level. So as I mentioned, Amyan is actually a cluster of a dozen of smaller sites within a 700-meter radius from the central mound. You have here this corona image without the actual modern village, which is now located here. So you have the main mound of Amyan, and you have all these sites on a 700 meters radius and on a surface more or less of 100 hectares. So between all these sites, we can see a long and progressive occupation, first during the Neolithic and Chalcolithic period, and then a continuous occupation from the late Chalcolithic until the Islamic period on the main site of Amyan. All these sites are grouped together on a tributary stream of the river Al-Khazir, which is also an environment that was certainly decisive in the occupation of the area. First occupation during the Neolithic, the occupation was first established north of the main mound. You have the main mound here. And during the Hassuna, Halaf, and Ubaid period, you still have this occupation. It is believed that it might be a permanent occupation, but it also could be some sort of semi-nomadic settlements with movements between the different sites, with, if not maybe real cases of continuous occupation, of course. This would have been should be attested with further archaeological investigations. Then, during the late Chalcolithic period, we have the first occupation of the main mound and then the lower town with a persistent occupation in the north. During the Nineveh V period, we still have the occupation of the main mound, maybe on its entire surface, This also would have to be confirmed by the archaeological excavation, and also to another site in the south. And then during the second half of the third millennium, we have this increasing of the occupation. The main mound and the lower town is fully occupied, and we have a bunch of more significant occupation in the surroundings of the main mound. You can see also that the number of sherds increases drastically. Then for the Middle Bronze Age period, we have a decrease in the occupation, but it's still the maximum surface. The occupation reached its maximum surface, and this would be the period of perhaps the Kingdom of Nuragum. And then at the Late Bronze Age, you have this massive reduction in the occupation, and the occupation still concentrated on the main mound and sites on both sides. So this would be the period of the Mitanni Kingdom and the Middle Assyrian period. And then, of course, at the Neo-Assyrian period, we have again an increase in the occupation, which is not that surprising, since we are now located in the what we call the Neo-Assyrian heartland. And then through the Hellenistic, Parthian, Sassanid, and Islamic periods, we have a less significant occupation with a probable abandonment at the modern period around the 17th to the 15th to the 17th century, until the reoccupation of the modern village during the 70s. Amyan, just let me watch the time, yeah. So the first campaign in Amyan was held during the spring 2019. It was an exploratory campaign. We had three main, let's say, axis or focus: a topographical survey of the site, the archaeological excavations, of course, and the the study of the objects. This campaign has been done through major important partnerships, the most important of which the Kurdistan, with the Kurdistan General Directorate of Antiquities, the University of Salahuddin Erbil, the IFPO, the French Institute of the Near East, and the University of Lille and the University of Liège. And I want again to thank them for having trusted us with the project on this amazing site. So as you can see, Amyan is ovoid in shape, roughly oriented northeast-southwest. The high mound is little more than 2 hectares, and as you can see, the modern village is now located on the southern and eastern sides of the main high mound. You have here another view where you can see the modern village and the site. The higher point of the site is here. It's 26 meters above the surrounding plain, and it's more probable that there is a Sasanian cemetery located in this area. The lower town is now partly covered by the village and goes a little more than 10 hectares. So you have the main mound and the lower town, you have a surface of around a little less than 15 hectares. And at the foot of the high mound on the western side, you have here the river Kurabak, which is a tributary of the river Al-Khazir, which flows into the Great Zab. So there was some interesting features that we could see when we went for the first time to see the site. First of which, on many different locations on the sides of the high mound, you have this mud brick structures who could attest to some sort of rampart, but more probably to a terrace system. The real question is their date, indeed, but also to know if this terrace system was on all the surface of the actual high mound, or probably located in some places, given the fact that we have not been able to to attest these structures on the whole periphery of the site. We were also be able to see that there was this sort of a platform system on the site. It's not perfectly horizontal on top of it, and you have this like a sort of platform system. Here is the place where the Akkadian jar has been found, and here you have the possible location of the Sassanid cemetery. And so we were thinking that maybe through the periods and through time, not all part of the site would have been occupied, and that we might have some sort of different occupations throughout time and the site. And also, as you can see, but this is more normal, of course, you have a very steep slope, on the western side, whereas on the north, southern, and eastern sides, the slope is more gentler, which is probably due to some sort of erosion due to the river. The river, which is now having water during the winter and springtime, and which is completely dry during the summer and autumn, but it might not have been always the case, of course. So the archaeological excavation, the main idea was to explore the different levels of the high mound to gain an overall view of the chronology of the site occupation. So we did a step trench. Here in red, you have all the potential areas of excavations that we have spotted. And here you have the step trench that we excavated. Here is a picture of the trench by the end of the excavation. So the step trench was 32 meters long, 3 meters wide, oriented east-west. We did 3 sounding, each of them separated by a bulk. I will first present the sounding A2, which is in the middle, because as you will see, we did not have a succession of clear and nice flattened horizontal occupation level, but massive structure. So in the first sounding, I mean, not the first, the middle sounding A2, excavated by Laurent Colonna-Distria from the University of Liège, we have been able to excavate a massive structure, a mud brick enclosure wall, probably a rampart, 3 meters 60 wide and 2 meters 60 high. It is oriented north-south. It is parallel to the edge of the high mound. Unfortunately, we did not have the time to excavate the levels corresponding to the surface level corresponding to this wall. This wall is made of beautiful and perfect square mud bricks of 36 centimeters sharp and half bricks. I thank here again Laurent Colonna-Distria for this great view of this wall. This module of brick corresponds to 2/3 of an Assyrian cubit, which is a module that was frequently used during the late second and first millennia BC. This wall, I will emphasize on this, is really remarkable. It is for the excellent quality of its brick. And for those of you who have excavated in Kurdistan, you might know that this is not quite common. Very compact, very homogeneous and perfect, laid in an extremely regular manner, and with a very sharp color, different from those of the joints. Such a wall of more or less the same bricks. There's a lot of comparisons, but I've chosen this one found excavated in Mukable, dated from the Middle Assyrian period, and that was interpreted as a fortification wall with the same module of bricks, though slightly smaller of the one in Amyan. Of course, we thought that it could be a rampart, but somehow we were puzzled. I will just go back to the section by the fact that it has left almost no traces on the topography of the slope. So this is why we thought also that it could be some sort of wall enclosing a specific district within the city of of Amyan. But of course, it has been excavated only on a small area. So here again, some more excavations would have to be made to confirm this hypothesis. Just below the wall, this wall have been excavated yet not levels, occupational levels, but another massive structure on which the enclosure walls that I just presented rests. This structure is made of square mud bricks, approximately 40 centimeters, measuring approximately 40 centimeters. We have not been able to fully excavate this structure here again, but within the limits of the sounding, it is 4 meter wide and 3 meters high. It is possible that I've reached the bottom on the very last day of the excavation, but also this would have to be confirmed. What was quite amazing with this structure is the very poor state of conservation, of the outer bricks, which is completely different from those from the wall excavated upper. Very heterogeneous bricks with pebble shards, animal bones inside of it. And which contrast also with the inner bricks, because we have decided to make a sounding into this structure in order to understand it more precisely. And in the inner part, as you can see, we have more dense and pure bricks inside of it. So it could correspond to 2 different building techniques, but it could also be 2 different two structure from 2 different periods. Since we did not have any shards in the inner parts, of course, it was more than complicated to precisely date this structure. But a similar example can be found in Tesser Shemamok, where the team led by Maria Grazia Maseti-Rouault had found a Middle Assyrian ramp accessing the palace of Adad Nirari the first, and which is also very characteristic because of the poor states of the bricks. So here in Amyan, it could also be some sort of access ramp. It could also be the glacis of the rampart above, but it could also be some sort of terrace system here again. So this will have to be confirmed. And last but not least, in the sounding A1, excavated by Nermin Ali Amin from the University of Salahaddin in Erbil and Morgan Peak from the University of Lille. Here is the only place where we have been able to excavate some nice archaeological levels. There was 2 phases. The first one, the later one, made with this pavement, made with a broken tabouk and a poorly conserved Pise wall, which we call the squatter phase, which is not appropriate, of course, but it was not possible to date it. We have been able to find 1 glazed shards associated to this level. And below this, we have been able to excavate a building, only a small part of a courtyard, with baked brick installations that you have here, and the external wall, 1.50 meter wide, which is quite impressive and important, and very similar to some other major sites, such as Basset Kigomel, Moukablé, Kemene, and so on. We have many comparisons. One of them is Gomel, which has yielded also some prestigious building from the Middle Bronze Age with this kind of brick installation in the courtyards. So it is probably a administrative buildings. We have been also able to see that it was some sort of new foundation. It was not resting on another building, but on a thick layer of earth, which could be the rest of some sort of leveling or raising of this of the area. we did not find that much sherds, and there was a lot of pits, unfortunately. So it has been complicated to date this building, but it's more probably here again from the late 2nd millennium or the very beginning of the 1st millennium BC. So here is the section. Of course, we can't wait to excavate the last part of this trench, but you have here, so this administrative building on top of the trench. It's not the top of the site because the site goes more higher on the western side. You have this wall, which could be a rampart of this enclosure wall anyway, and this glacis terrace or ramp just below it. So the study of the ceramic material, which has been done by Taos Babour and Georges Mouammar, has causes many problems for the dating, mainly due to the context uncovered, which is monumental architecture and very few floor and clean enclosed contexts. So as I said, the preliminary dating of the building would be late 2nd to early 1st millennium BC. As for the rampart and the terrace, we still navigate somewhere around the 2nd millennium. I will not go deeply into the ceramic finds, but you can go and see our preliminary publications, and an article is will be released soon by Georges Mouammar and myself. The objects are quite interesting. I would not present, of course, all the objects, but these clay nails were of some interest for us because they are typologically new. So, of course, I think you all know this kind of clay nails, which we know generally embedded in walls and whose precise function remains unknown. We have here two type of nails, 3 fragments, but 2 type of nails. It is possible that those 2 fragments were actually one object. It's not sure. One of them is a square in section and the other one is round in section. What is interesting is that those nails are typical ornaments linked to monumental architecture, be it temple palaces, of course, but also monumental doors and monumental gates. Associated to ramparts, of course. They date from the late 2nd millennium to the early 1st millennium BC, but the closer comparisons of this kind of nails are mainly dating to the late 2nd millennium. Of course, there are comparisons everywhere, but the most closest comparison would be with, I put here some of the sites, Kemune, Kartukulti, Nidurta, Baklawa, Rimanuzi, to name only those ones. We have found also other objects such as many animal figurines, this one being the most beautiful one, which is an equid. You have to believe me here because there's this mane. We also have a few metal objects like this arrowhead and a metal blade. But we have also an really important amount of ceramic slags, which of course attest to presence of a workshop nearby. We can wait to find it. We have found these ceramic slags on all the soundings of the trench from the top to the bottom. We have made some sample of these slags and also of the ceramics, and it's now under study. So to conclude, actually, I believe that Amyan is one of the most important urban center on the plain, on the Navkur plain. Of course, not as big as Habiki Lachin and of course Gomel, but the survey regarding the early Bronze Age gives absolutely no doubt to the fact that during the 3rd millennium it was an important site, and also for later periods, Middle, Late Bronze Age and Neo-Assyrian periods, which the level that we have been excavated belong. Amyan is located on a major north-south axis linking Nineveh here to the fertile plains of the Zagros foothills when you are here in Nineveh and you want to go north. There's actually two roads, one going through Khorsabad and the other one going here through this small pass, the pass of the river Al-Khazir, and which leads first to what is now the city of Badash. But the first main site that you find is the site of Amyan. And so from this to saying that it was somehow an administrative center in charge of the control of the land, there's only one step, as we say in French, and of course, I cross it. This is also the reason why we want to go back there. We hope we will be able to go back there in springtime. We have dozens of future objectives, but more specifically to continue on this step trench and to excavate more extensively this administrative building that we have been founding in the sounding A1. Of course, have a closer look to the third millennium occupation of the site. The occupation also in the lower town, even more that we feel concerned about the fact that, as you may know, the urbanization is growing rapidly in Kurdistan. And when we left, there was some spots to excavate in the village. But we are afraid that the village should be a city very soon, and that it will not be possible to excavate the lower town soon. And of course, we still want to understand the topography and the landscape and the environment and the surrounding site of around the high mound. Again, I want to thank all of our partners and the amazing Amyan team. And thank you very much for your attention.